Hello, welcome back. I'm Dean Mitchell and you're watching 𝐾𝐤𝐴 TV, live from Wellington, the New Zealand Stock Exchange in fact. This is the early trades. Asian stocks rose for a third straight session on Monday as risk appetite was aided by recent data showing the world economic recovery from the coronavirus pandemic was well on track. The US equities rose on Friday as solid economic data helped Wall Street reverse its decline from the previous session when reports of a Biden administration push to increase taxes on capital gains had put pressure on the equities. IHS Market Flash Factory PMI for the US hit 60.6 in the first half of the month, clocking highest reading on record since 2007. Amid global virus surges, the S&P ASX 200 is trading lower today, dropping 9 points or 0.13% to 7,051.70 during early morning trade. Over the last 5 days, the ASX 200 is virtually unchanged but is currently 0.61% below its 52-week high. The bottom performing stocks in this index are JB Hi-Fi and Inghams Group Limited. The top gainers are NIB gainers up 11%, Perpetual up 5%, and Medibank Private up 3.8%. Nickel Mines is up 2% and Hub24 advanced 2%. NIB Holdings said that the underlying profit for the group in financial year 2021 was expected to be much stronger than the prior corresponding period on account of robust performance in the second half. Meanwhile, Silver Lake Resources was down 3.3%, West Gold Resources declined 2.6%, and Evolution Mining was 2.5% during early trade hours today. Looking at major newsmakers, and Westpac Limited on Monday said that its cash earnings in the first half of 2021 would be negatively impacted due to additional provisions for customer refunds, payments and other associated costs, along with an accounting loss on sale in Westpac Pacific. Next up is Anteo Tech Limited, which shared on Monday that evaluation work conducted by Anteo's tech collaborators focusing on the application of Anteo X has proven successful. The collaboration work and results have strengthened partnerships and created a pathway to commercialization of Anteo X. Magnetic Resources NL has secured binding commitments for around 2.6 million Australian dollars before cost by way of placement of around 1.83 million new shares at 1.42 Australian dollars per share. Next is Downer EDI Limited, which announced today it had entered into an agreement to sell its time management business, 𝐴𝐻𝑇co, to Bridgestone Corporation. Bridgestone, which was established in 1931 and is listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange, is a global company with operations in more than 150 countries, providing world-class tyres and sustainability mobility solutions. The sale price represents an enterprise value of $79 million. Sigma Healthcare Chief Executive and Managing Director Mark Hooper has submitted his resignation. Hooper served the company for almost 11 years. Next is Proteomics International Laboratories, which shared recently that it has received ISO of 13485 certification, the most widely used international standard for quality management systems in the manufacture of medical devices. The certification is awarded to only those companies that can demonstrate an ability to produce safe, effective products that consistently meet the expectations of customers and regulators. OM Holdings is next, and they have announced that it would extend the travel restrictions at its Sarah Walker smelter complex in Malaysia after a fresh rise in new COVID-19 cases. Mainstream Group has said that funds under administration rose 47.4 billion Australian dollars over the March quarter to 272.2 billion after it onboarded asset manager Pendal. McGrath has hit a 9-week high and it sees earnings riding on booming housing markets. McGrath has said that it now expected underlying EBITDA between 16.5 million and 17.5 million Australian dollars for financial year 21 amid positive residential property markets. Peninsula Energy has reported an operating cash loss of 2.2 million Australian dollars on zero sales for the March quarter. Carbon Revolution Limited has raised 73.5 million Australian dollars at a price of 1.60 per share under a successfully completed institutional component of its underwritten 1 for 4.38 accelerated non-renounceable entitlement offer in the underwritten institutional placement. Oil prices rallied more than 1% on Friday but ended the week on a negative. The major support came from the economic data as stronger PMIs across Europe and a weaker US dollar are supporting oil prices. However, concerns over demand from India and Japan lingered, capping the gains. The WTI crude rose 1.16% to $62.14 US dollars a barrel on Friday. Brent Crude closed at 66.9, up 1.06%. Energy players such as Santos, Oil Search Limited and Beach Energy Limited could trade higher for the day. And looking at upcoming economic charter, China will launch a series of activities next month to boost domestic consumption, including an expo on consumer goods in the southern province of Hainan. The commerce industry said on Sunday, Britain now looks set to see faster economic growth than the United States this year as the country races ahead with its vaccination program after it slumped in 2020. Goldman Sachs said on Sunday, some wind, that the US is all set to announce its growth numbers for the first quarter of 2021. The numbers which the US Bureau of Economic Analysis would be releasing on the 29th of April 2021 are expected to show a faster economic expansion in the quarter ending March 2021 as against the previous quarter. A day before the United States growth numbers would be announced on the 28th of April, the US Fed would be announcing its monetary policy decision. The Board of Governors for the Fed that takes this call meets at intervals of 5 to 8 weeks. The global markets are already discounting for a status quo in the American monetary policy. Meanwhile, Eurostat would be coming up with the first quarter GDP numbers of the Eurozone, along with the United Kingdom, which witnessed lockdowns in the first quarter due to the spike in fresh COVID-19 infections. The Eurozone is expected to grow by 4.4% this year. And now let's take a look at some important news from here in New Zealand. And the first big news is on the bus workers' industrial action. After a disruption on Friday in Wellington and a 24-hour lockout, which was overturned, the bus drivers in the city are due back to work, while the Tramways Union and New Zealand Bus continue mediation with no further industrial action for at least a week. New Zealand Bus media inquiries are now being handled by top PR firm Thomson Lewis, which is led by Jacinda Ardern's former Chief of Staff, Gordon John Thompson. Moving on to the next news on QEX delisting from the New Zealand Stock Exchange, and the NZSA Shareholders Association has commented it wants struggling shipping company QEX Logistics to remain on the stock exchange after it was announced yesterday a plan to delist so they could sell the business. QEX said the sale is in the best interest of shareholders after recent negative publicity. QEX has also been investigated by the NZX's regulatory 𝐬𝐴𝐧𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐺 for continuous disclosure and compliance with listing rules. The NZSA Association believes that if the delisting goes ahead, it will be the worst outcome for shareholders, as the company would not be required to meet the high accountability standards which come with being on the NZX. And next up, in the shadow of Anzac Day, US President Joe Biden has formally recognized the genocide atrocities in Armenia on the 106th anniversary, recognizing the mass slaughter of 1.5 million indigenous. However, calls for Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern and the New Zealand government to join the US are not being heard over fears of damaging New Zealand's relationship with Turkey. And speaking on weekend television, Foreign Minister Nania Matu said there are important issues to consider before New Zealand could do so. And to the vaccine now, and over 90% of New Zealanders are late getting their second doses of the Pfizer vaccine, with many having their second jab more than 2 weeks late than recommended. Currently, most are scheduled to receive the second dose within 21 days after the first, and health officials are encouraging following this schedule. So far, the vaccine rollout is 2% above target, with 216,158 vaccinated as of April 25th. Local district health boards have extracted up to 6 doses per vial. It's estimated 3% of vaccine doses have been wasted, which is less than 5.3% forecasted by the Health Ministry. Stay tuned with 𝐾𝐤𝐴N TV. I'm Dean Mitchell, live from Wellington. We'll be back with more updates on the market and diverse themes sector.